Hello, friends. So, we're going to be reading from the Writings Inspired series, by Real Legends book, the latest and greatest of the installments. And the poem that I'm going to be reading for you guys today is called There Used to Be a Tree. So, here we go. There used to be a tree, here, right in front, like the tower of a castle. Its roots revealed between sharp rocks, slouched upon a small hill with no hassle. Winter was a sight. In the stormy glow stood the tree, limbs lightly dusted with silver snow. So tall indeed, you had to look up to see its branches. But today the sun shines. That is what I see, but not the tree. For that was years ago, ripped right from the earth, root by root. The lawn needed space for its ego. Now the tree hangs on a wall in our house, safe from the elements, years from now. Okay. um, so there's a story behind this poem. There used to be a tree right in front of my folks' house. It was a very gargantuan tree. And I really wanted to um, go for the descriptive beauty that you will often find in naturalism. Um, Very earthy, very elementy, and it's weaved in throughout a lot of descriptors in here. And I do that with a literary device. And my favorite, of course, is alliteration uh, to get the reader's attention, essentially. Being the classically trained vocalist, anything that um, can make the reader pay attention to the lyricism within a poem. For example, roots revealed, um, silver snow, all those things that I can especially recall about the tree during its most beautiful of times, and then the final moment when it was, removed from the yard. And we kind of get this like personification of the lawn, right? The lawn needed space for its ego. So, and that was my comical way of, you know, making sense of it all. And it's not as to say that it was a extensual loss to have the tree taken from the yard, but the tree is supposed to represent or symbolize more than just a tree. And I think that hopefully that comes across that throughout the seasons, throughout time, right? As we measure seasons, we measure time through seasons. In temporality, the tree always stands through, every Christmas time during when you see snow and all throughout your life living in your childhood home, apartment, rock, wherever you are, there are some constants. And sometimes when those little constants suddenly disappear, you feel uprooted. And then you don't realize how much it just completed the scenery. Um, and of course, you know me, I love the medieval references. And so, of course, the tree is like a tower of a castle, right? And I think that goes back to what I just said, really. I mean, and when you think about the castle, the towers were a lot of the times a place of defense if the castle was under siege or attack, right? And so a tree is just like the tower of a castle of our home, right? So we go into it more, and as I said, the tree symbolizes so much more than just a tree. It is bigger than itself, and it can humanize just as much as the egotistical lawn, right? And we hear that in the next couple lines down where I say it's just slouched, right? It's just slouched upon a small hill with no hassle, as is to say, it has been just ubiquitously am- among us. It was there when we moved in, when I was about 11 years old. Um, and so that I think was kind of the goal for this, was to really get back to that types of poetry, that really beautiful type of style that you would get from, again, child's poetry. Stood the tree, so tall indeed, but not the tree. Like, it's just very, gosh, what is the word I'm looking for here? There's a dialogue happening between the reader and the author right now as I'm talking to you guys about this. And then, of course, one of the things I wanted to touch on, the one last thing, is the tree is no longer there, right? But time goes on. However, unbeknownst to me, my mom had taken a really beautiful tree, a picture of the tree, when it was wintertime. And so she had decided to frame that picture, and thus I have the line in the poem, "Now the tree hangs on a wall in our house," as is to say, it's never really gone. Um, and how cool is that? And I go into that, say from the elements now, years from now, it's still going to be a constant. And truth be told, that picture was definitely the inspiration for this poem. Because one day I was kind of just meandering through the house and looking at pictures as I do, and being sentimental and such. And I saw that picture and I was just like, gosh, I remember there was. There used to be a tree there. I remember. It was so beautiful. That picture reminds me of every winter, and we get those little pieces of descriptor to help paint this picture in the reader's head. It's dusted, lightly dusted on the limbs as silver snow. I already know I mentioned that line, but it's just chef's kiss. Beautiful line. I could talk forever about the beautification that goes on in this poem, but that was basically the goal. Um, and I think that when you really when it really comes down to it, I think a lot of people could write a poem like this where they're talking about, oh, that rock. Like, I always used to sit on that rock when I was feeling mad or sad, like, and it was always like a block away from my place. Or, that one object that is so representational, so many moments, like, oh, that's where I had my first kiss, or that's where I had my first, it's the object of firsts. And so that was my ode to the tree. And so if I wanted to try to incorporate this into hopefully a lesson, not necessarily having students write their own poetry, um, you know, we would get to, hopefully, I'd like to have kids play with that at some point. Even though poetry is tough, you're messing with language in an extraordinary way. It would be kind of cool to see kids just kind of do a free write on some type of prompt, like, what's an object in your mind that sticks out to you from your memories? Like, what's that constant in your life? Whether it's a tree or, that rock or boulder that you could sit on, right? It's a pretty humbling moment because, of course, there's the biggest takeaway, which is you don't realize what impact it had until it was like ripped from the earth root by root. Um, and I think somebody could probably make an argument that I use that word repetitiously, um, counting how many times I say the word root. 1, 2, 3, I think 4 times in this poem. And I don't think that that necessarily was done purposely. I think that those are things that naturally happen. I know I did something unpurposeful, but I think there's something to be said about that because um, roots are kind of that things that connects us to each other in the earth. I picture like, you know, just an interweavings of a root network. And in a way, if we're looking at that big idea, um, us as a people, as a civilization of human beings, we are more connected than we think. We are more things in common than we have differences, even if some people don't act like it, right? Um, and I'm sure when I wrote this, that could have been the purpose. um, but it has been a minute, so I always enjoy going back to these books and reading these things because they are kind of little snapshots from my life. So it's always fun to share them with you guys. So thank you for that.